Keir Starmer happily calls himself a socialist. And he's also open about the government not having as much money as he'd like to fix things. And yet he has a strange relationship to the rich paying more in tax. Here he is speaking to Beth Rigby of Sky News.
You said in that speech it's disrespectful for Sunak to say the economy turned the corner when taxes are higher. But isn't it also disrespectful when you promise people, for example, to raise income tax for the top 5% of earners, and then you ditch that when you get nearer to power? Now, there might be good reasons for that, but doesn't acknowledging that you have broken some of the promises you made go some way to fixing these trust issues that you have?
I think
You've just totally avoided that.
Let me take that head on, because there are a number of pledges I made when I was running for Labour leadership. Most of those are still in place. They're the building blocks of what we've now put in place.
Most of them are still in place. Most of them. Okay, maybe not all of them. Most of them. Complete and utter lies. Now, this is really important because Starmer says that so casually. He's very good at lying, okay? You might be quite good at falling asleep or breathing. It might come naturally. For Keir Starmer, it's lying. Let's look at those 10 pledges from 2020. Let's have a look, because he says he's kept most of them. Let's see. Here are the first 5. There were 10, remember? Number 1, economic justice, income tax on 5% of earners, reverse the Tories' cuts in corporation tax. Number 2, social justice, abolish universal credit, end the Tories' cruel sanctions regime. Climate justice. Number 3, Green New Deal. Number 4, promote peace and human rights, no more illegal wars. Review all UK arms sales, but apparently not. Number 5, common ownership. Public services should be in public hands. He's kept none of those. That's the first 5. Okay, let's see the next 5. Remember, Keir Starmer said he's kept most of these. Number 6, defend migrants' rights. Full voting rights for EU nationals. Gone. Defend free movement as we leave the EU. Gone. An immigration system based on compassion and dignity, end indefinite detention, and for the closure of centres such as Yarl's Wood. I don't know, are they still saying they'll close Yarl's Wood? I mean, they basically say that James Bond should run immigration enforcement. That's basically what they're saying. Have a interagency operation in terms of border control. Number 7, arguably, you could argue, if you're being generous, they've kept this, right? The New Deal for workers' rights, you could argue. I don't think they have, but you can make that argument. Number 8, radical devolution. A federal system to devolve powers. We've not seen that. Abolish the House of Lords. That ain't happening. Number 9, equality. Pull down obstacles that limit opportunities and talent. We are the party of the Equal Pay Act, sure start. BAME representation. You've just blocked the first woman in this country's political history to stand in Parliament from standing again after 37 years. We're the party of BAME representation. How? With politicians, don't listen to what they say, see what they do. And on this, they're talking crap. Let's go back to that. Again, Starmer says, we've kept most of these. Number 10, effective opposition to the Tories, forensic effective opposition. Look, you could say, well, they're doing well in the polls. Okay, fine. He says, unite our party, promote pluralism, improve our culture. That's definitely not happened. But there is effective opposition in so much as Labour are looking to win. So let's say out of 10, let's be really generous and say 2. I don't think that, by the way. I'd say probably 1, 2 halves. But let's say 2. That's not most of them, Keir. Anyway, let's go back to that clip, because that wasn't the end of what he had to say. Here's what Starmer said next.
Some of them have changed. And this is an issue that's important, because the reason they've changed is because we can't afford to do them anymore. I said that we should abolish tuition fees. We can't, now the damage has been done to the economy, particularly by Liz Truss.
You could raise taxes.
It is not possible to do that.
You could raise taxes on the top 5%, and you said I don't really want to get into the policies. What I want you to acknowledge is that part of the trust issue is also about things you said as Labour leader.
I totally disagree with you, and I'll tell you for why. I think it's more important to stand in front of the electorate and say, I'm sorry, I can't now afford what I said before because of the damage that's been done to the economy.
Why can't you afford to raise taxes for the top 5% of earners?
Not to simply stick with something which you know you can't afford.
Well, you can afford to raise taxes on higher earners, can't you?
What I'm saying to the electorate is this. I'm going to tell you in advance of the election what I don't think we can afford to do. I'm not going to tell you that you can have everything and then break a promise after the election. I'm going to level with you now. There are some things that we now can't afford because of the damage done to the economy. I think that is basic honesty with the electorate.
Uh-oh. Looks like we need the repairman. Get out the yellow pages. Robo haircut seems to have broken. Maybe it's a software glitch. Maybe, Beth, you can turn him off and turn him back on again. Sometimes that works. It might be the fuse. Now, clearly, this is just a line Starmer will keep repeating, even when, as in this case, it's just utter nonsense. We can't afford to do the things I previously promised, I'm afraid. We can't afford to raise taxes. Money is tight. So I'm afraid we can't just afford to have more money right now. Do you understand how that's incoherent? We can't afford to raise taxes. We can't afford to have more money. He's ready for that line with regards to tuition fees, with regards to welfare reform, getting rid of that two-child cap on benefits. But hey, Keir, I'm not talking about spending money. I'm talking about raising it. No, we can't afford to raise money right now. And did I mention Liz Truss is to blame? Did I mention, by the way, my father was a toolmaker? You can see how incoherent this looks. Now, besides the bizarre political performance that was offered right there, I think that clip demonstrates two things. Starmer is happy to lie. We know that. But also, he just doesn't seem very interested in tax increases on the rich. Forget making the case for tax increases. Even when the case is put to him, he starts talking about something completely different. Mike, do you think Keir Starmer opposes higher taxes on the rich?
I don't think he's interested, like you said. I completely agree with you, Aaron. And I think this is all part of remaking the Labour Party, right? So what Keir Starmer has said throughout his time as Labour leader is the Labour Party has changed. And we can quite clearly see that because in my view, one of the kind of key Labour principles for as long as I've known the Labour Party, for as long as I've been politically engaged, has been those with the broadest shoulders pay more. They pay more. That's naturally how it works because they have the ability to pay more. And yet we see the leader of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, saying he can't afford to raise taxes on the richest in this country. It's genuinely bizarre, and it speaks to me of a man who has no interest in raising taxes on the richest. And we know why this is the case, right? For Labour, for the past 2 or 3 years under Keir Starmer, they've been a party of the business and they're trying to position themselves as a party of the rich, right? That's what the party have been trying to do. They aren't a party of working families as they claim. And because it's inconvenient to tax the rich, maybe they're going to get a bit upset and, be hard on businesses, they're going to get a bit upset. Labour have chosen the easy route here, but actually, no, we don't have any interest in this anymore, and it's about the ideological rewriting of the Labour Party, which is why you squeeze out Dynab, which is why you try and penalise the left who raise concerns about these issues, because that's not what Labour are about anymore. This is the new Labour. And whenever Starmer says that, we need to take him very, very seriously. The new Labour is one who have no interest in making those with the broadest shoulders pay more. It's a Labour Party that is for businesses, for the rich, and not for working families. And let's be clear, that's what the new Labour is. The new Labour don't stand up against the slaughter of tens of thousands of people. This is the new Labour, and this is what we need to understand the new Labour to be. This is a party that's completely morally bankrupt and have no interest in fighting for the most vulnerable in society.
Yeah, I think people often, they refer to Blair, but look, Blair had Gordon Brown, right? I mean, Gordon Brown is not left-wing, but he was, he's to the left of Starmer. He had John Prescott. He did some, there were some left-wing policies. I don't see it with Starmer. I'm sorry. I think actually prepared to be even more disappointed than you're ready for. I also want to go back to some of those pledges because, of course, the point made by Beth Rigby there was that you can make money, right, from the first pledge, or they wouldn't cost anything at all. Starmer is, of course, saying we can't afford these pledges, even though I've kept most of them. We know, we've just established he hasn't kept most of them. But let's just go back to those pledges again to look at which ones would cost money. Okay, economic justice, one, which is what he was being questioned about, increasing taxes. That doesn't cost money. Okay, that makes money. You've got two, social justice, that would cost some money, of course. Ending the two-child cap, abolishing universal credit, yeah, that costs money. Climate justice, yeah, costs money. Promote peace and human rights, doesn't cost money. Common ownership, well, I don't think that costs money in the long term, but that's a political disagreement people will have. Defend migrants' rights, doesn't cost money. Strengthen workers' rights and trade unions, doesn't cost money. Radical devolution, that's going to save money, right? Scrapping the House of Lords, or at least significantly reducing it, save hundreds of millions of pounds. Equality, doesn't really cost money. Effective opposition to the Tories doesn't really cost money. So 1, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 don't cost money. I think you'd say 2 of those make money. That's 7 of the pledges, and only 7 has arguably been kept. Maybe you could say 7 and 10. So this idea that the pledges cost money, they don't have to. I mean, I talk about this a lot. We could do so many things which would be progressive, which would save money. Reducing the size of the House of Lords, getting rid of police and crime commissioners, getting rid of all these fake quangos and commissioners. We have a commissioner for victims. I would have thought victims should be looked after by the police and the CPS. What do I know? Apparently we need a permanent commissioner. You know, you could get rid of lots of these people, lots of these jobs, and you could save lots of money. Of course, Starmer isn't talking about that because the whole point of those jobs is creating fake jobs, political sinecures for the permanent political class. The people that fail to become MPs, well, they can be lords, they can be commissioners, they can work for quangos. They can have all the fake jobs around Westminster. And I think actually more than anything else, his inability to articulate an argument to get rid of the fake jobs is what worries me more than anything else. If you say we've got no money, but I'm going to get rid of the fake jobs, I could buy it, but he's not. Anybody that says we can't afford to spend money on X, but is keeping police and crime commissioners who, from what I can see, don't do anything, shouldn't be listened to.